Hey, what's up, guys? I have a long and crazy story about computer issues. So I was working on the game jam with my friend Nick, and we had finished it. But during the process, I randomly got distracted by a friend, quote unquote. My friend named Psycho Mochi. She's like a Twitch streamer, um, and she sent me a message saying, "Hey, I have a game that I'm making too." And I was like, "Oh, you haven't messaged me in a while. Um, I I'm making a game too right now. Are you?" I was wondering maybe she's participating in the Ludwig Game Jam too because I was in the middle of a game jam, and I told her, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, I want to try my game. I'm making one right now." Never really specifying if it was a game jam game or not. It was already kind of sus, and I was already kind of like, "Is this really you, Mochi?" Um, but I thought maybe she got into game dev. I don't know. It's just weird how my brain is not registering that this could be really be a fake person, and like I want it to be. I want to give the benefit of the doubt. So I was asking. I actually asked, like, "Is this you? Um, is this you, Mochi?" And she said, "Yeah, it's me." And even used some emojis that she would use before, or maybe some other emojis, like little emotes and stuff. So I thought, okay, she uses those. That's her. Or but yeah, like I ended up downloading the game that she was making. It was called Dead Trigger. It was hosted on itch.io, and weirdly, the itch.io page did not have like a proper profile page, which is also kind of sus. I think like thinking back, like I'm really stupid for getting that far. I downloaded it, and I it was an exe file. I opened it, and I allowed the computer to run it, even though it wasn't a trusted developer, which is common because my friend is in game dev, and I feel like when you make games and you open them, you download them and open them, um, it's hard for game developers to they have to register their developer ID with Windows in order to be a trusted developer. So it's kind of hard for indie games to take off for that reason, and it's like kind of relatable. And so I thought, okay, that's a reason where it's going to be okay if I run this program. So it logged me out of Discord, and it actually didn't really log me out. It actually created a fake. So at this point I already know, like, oh, it's a Trojan. Okay, I'm getting hacked right now, basically. So my Discord account was getting hacked. I put in my password. Like at this point, I'm really stupid. Like this is a series of bad decisions leading to this point. Um, and anyway, you guys can laugh at me, and that's okay. I'm ashamed of it. I learned from it. Um, and yeah. So anyway, yeah, the fake Mochi stopped talking to me. I DM'd the real Mochi on Twitter, and I asked, "Is this you?" And she's like, "No, I can't believe it, Choke. Don't do it." And I was like, "I already did it." And then she invited me to her Discord server for me to like run some antivirus. So I downloaded like Malwarebytes. There's a one called Hitman Pro. I tried them all, and they none of them like really detected the Trojan. Or I think there was one. The first Malwarebyte scan caught something and they cleared it out. I don't know if it was related though. But just in case the Trojan was still running on my computer, I went to my phone, immediately changed a bunch of passwords, bank account passwords, Google passwords, stock account passwords, all the primary accounts that I use. I changed the password of Discord first because if the Discord password is the same as other passwords I use, I changed them all. Um, so I did that, and so even I have it right here. So this is like where I'm at now. I was just talking about the whole Mochi situation too. But she and her friends were helping me clear stuff out, and I'm like, you know what? I really want to be thorough, and I want to just do a factory reset. I was because my wife was giving me some advice. Like one thing I used to think, the way I used to think is like I after I've done a few things for security, I think, oh, maybe I've done enough, and then we'll see what happens. But she was encouraging me, basically, kind of being stern with me and saying you should really try to be thorough. And I was like, okay, I'll try to be thorough. So I thought maybe I'll do a factory reset. Okay. Now this is still the beginning of the story, guys. This is a crazy story. So I did a factory reset. But the settings on the factory reset, what I did was I I reset. I wrote keep files, and I thought maybe if I do a factory reset, because I have two drives. I have my SSD, and I have my hard drive. So uh, fix my camera so you can see my face fully. Um, so I wanted to make sure that my I backed up all my SSD files to my hard drive, and I wanted to make sure that my hard drive wasn't cleared out. So I thought, okay, keep my files. Turns out when I did the factory reset, it kept all the files even in the SSD. Um, and I was like, I was getting tired, so I just went to bed. Um, I thought maybe I had done enough to doing that factory reset. It was not enough. Like if it kept the files, probably there's still something in my computer. So I woke up the next morning, and it's actually a good thing that this happened because then I decided to do a really really thorough factory reset. So when I woke up, my Fidelity account, my stock account with like thousands of dollars in there, reported login attempts, and I'm like maybe, and then I opened my computer, and there were two copies of the Fidelity shortcut, the Fidelity Active Trader Pro shortcut. So I thought maybe if this person is in my computer, maybe they saw that I had just installed Fidelity. Like for some reason I installed Fidelity because I guess that morning I wanted to check my stock account on my computer. Good thing I didn't log in. I checked it on my phone instead. Um, but maybe they had tried to log in, had some failed attempts, locked out my account, and there were two shortcuts for some reason. One of them was the normal shortcut. One of them was 0 bytes, and I thought this could be like a fake login trying to get my Fidelity account password. So kind of just like how they did a fake Discord login and got my Discord password. And I'm like, okay, I'm not falling for that. If they only had one shortcut, I may have clicked it. Like, why would they leave two shortcuts and not delete the other one? I don't know. This is just crazy though. So anyway, um, I saw that and I was like, you know what? I need to be really, really thorough. And I thought, okay, I'll do a full factory reset offline using a USB boot drive. And I thought, okay, that's a good solution. So I knew I had an extra USB at work. I couldn't find one at home. So the next day I went to work. At the end of the day, found my USB drive. Just constant problems. Like even while I was looking for the USB drive, I noticed it was lost. So I was like looking around the office to find it. I was about to text my coworkers and my boss to see if anyone saw it. Turns out it was like deep in some pocket of like some little basket. So I found it. I took it home, started the whole process, tried to do a factory reset. And this is where like at this point I know like this is a good solution to get the Trojan out, so I'm not really worried about it. And then I ran into a whole slew of like problems. This is crazy. So while doing it, so I tried to do a full factory reset from USB. Um, so I did it. I did the one instead of keeping the files. I did a full factory reset to erase everything. I did it first using a downloaded copy of Windows, and I'm like, okay, if this thing is really, really, really crazy Trojan, I was like paranoid at this point. Like after all these problems, I was like, I need to be extremely thorough. And I looked up, can a rat Trojan, can a Trojan survive a factory reset if you download from Windows? And I thought, because I thought I really wanted to do this like offline. Um, and I don't think it can, to be honest, but I just did it. I just wanted to do it anyway, and I thought, okay, I'll get the USB, do it offline. So I disconnected everything, my internet, and so I was able to use this laptop that I'm recording on now. A good thing we have an extra laptop that I can use. I downloaded the Windows media installation, saved it into a USB boot drive, um, and put it in my PC, my tower, and so I started the process. So while I was starting the process, the monitor was staying black for a long time, and I didn't really know what it was. The computer wasn't able to reset. So I tried switching the monitor HDMI between the ports because I thought, okay, maybe what if like because I used to be on two monitors, what if it's like thinking that this port is for the first monitor and it's trying to show something on the second monitor. I was switching it back and forth. It doesn't really make sense because I only had one monitor connected, and it would probably just pick whichever monitor is there. But yeah, that didn't work, so the screen was still black. So, but during this process, like I was trying the factory reset um, from scratch, and during the process, I did something really, really dumb, which is it was staying black, and I didn't know what to do, so I just pressed the button held it for 5 seconds, did a hard shut off. Apparently, like if there's any time you don't want to hard shut off the PC, it's during a factory reset. So when I turned it back on, um, it's still booting from my SSD, but I wasn't able to log in. It said like couldn't access user profile. Apparently, while I was trying to reset, it had done like a few things while it was recreating Windows, but it did not create a user profile for me in that process. So I wasn't able to log in. And I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Where am I? So yeah, I wasn't able to log in. Okay, here. So I was able to. I was like, how am I supposed to? Like at that point, since it didn't have a user profile and I couldn't log in, I thought at this point, yeah, I need to reinstall Windows. So I went into like basically I had to clear out the old SSD. I thought just clear out everything on it, like the partial installation of Windows, the incomplete error installation of Windows. I wanted to clear it all out, just delete everything on the SSD so I could reinstall from fresh the USB boot drive. And so I had to open. I have two drives in my computer, SSD and the hard drive. So I booted from the hard drive, and I told myself a long time ago, I'm never ever going back to hard drive because hard drive is terrible. It's so slow. It takes like 5 minutes to boot the computer, and because I had backed up a bunch of memory from my SSD into my hard drive, it was going to be even slower because the memory was really full. Um, so anyway, every time I booted up the computer during this process, I had to wait like 5 minutes for it to boot for me to do anything. So that sucks. Um, so yeah, so I was able to navigate to the partitions in like disk management, and I cleared the primary partition. So basically the part where Windows is supposed to install. Um, and I didn't know I was supposed to delete all of them, but I'll get to that later. So I had trouble setting the boot drive. Now suddenly, oh yeah, when I tried to set the boot drive, I noticed like the USB was like I went to the BIOS. Um, oh yeah, so yeah, I tried to open the BIOS because I wanted to set the boot drive because I wanted because I needed to. Wait, how did I? I think I wrote this story out of order. Even before I tried to Oh yeah. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I wrote these notes out of order. So even before I had to re boot my computer from the hard drive, for some reason, like the I have an Asus motherboard. The Asus thing used to come up when I turned on my computer. For some reason, at some point while I had my SSD, it stopped showing the Asus thing. So I was unable to like when you turn on the computer, it shows the manufacturer, and then you could press a button like delete or F2 or F10 or F11 or something to bring up the BIOS. I could not access the BIOS at all for some reason, and I was like, why? So I thought um, maybe something happened. I don't know. I was looking it up on this laptop, like what to do if you're not able to access the BIOS, um, and it turns out like there's a weird fix for it. Some kid on YouTube was like, if you remove the battery, there's like a circular battery from your motherboard. Leave it out for like 10 seconds, put it back in. Um, you can like after that you could access the BIOS, and there were like thousands of likes and 600 comments saying yes, this works. I was like, okay, that's pretty reliable, so I tried it. Um, and I opened up my computer. I had to remove the graphics card because the battery was like under it, and I couldn't get a good grip on it. Um, I tried to jostle out the graphics card. It got stuck, so I had to look up another thing of how to do it properly. It turns out there's a little tab you have to push. I pushed the tab, took out the graphics card, um, and then I was able to like find a way to take the battery out. You have to like push a tab. I was trying to like force it out, which is bad. It wasn't working because for some people's, you could like just pull it out from underneath, but for this one, you have to like push a tab and then it just pops out easily. So I did that, left it out for however many seconds. I was like, I want to be thorough. I'll do this like 20 seconds. Put it back in, booted up the computer. Turns out it worked. I could get to the BIOS. I was able to boot from the hard drive, and then I did all the disk partition stuff and then resume my story. So after I did that, for some reason, for some reason, it caused another problem. When I After I had booted back the hard drive, I redid the BIOS. Apparently, when you take out the battery and put it back in, it resets the BIOS settings. And I had forgotten that there was a specific setting in the BIOS that you have to change in order for it to detect your M2 at all. Because that slot, or there's a certain part of the BIOS is like it's detecting, well, to detect, yeah, my SSD, that thing has to be turned on M2 mode. Um, yeah, I'm right here in the story now. Yeah, first, even before that though, I like inserted and removed the SSD. So I like took out the graphics card again because I thought, what if it's because the SSD was not showing up in the BIOS or the like the disk manager at all. And at this point, I had already like rebooted the hard drive several times. So this is a process of like um hours basically, just because the booting of the hard drive really sucks. Um, so I thought, okay, I'll insert and reinsert the SSD just to make sure it's not a hardware issue. Well, I thought maybe after I took the graphics card out, it got messed up. Turns out it didn't get messed up. It was fine. But the BIOS and the disk manager and the device manager, none of them were able to detect the SSD. I found out about M2 mode after a lot of internet searching, turned it back on. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I vaguely remember that. So now that M2 mode was showing up, the M2 SSD was showing up on BIOS and all the drives. So then I thought, okay, smooth sailing from here. I'll reinstall Windows onto the SSD from uh, the USB drive. And then turns out this is when I found out uh, as you're trying to install Windows, um, it's saying something like the partitions are not in the recommended order. And I looked that up, and it turns out, yeah, this is when I had to go back into the hard drive boot and delete all the partitions because I was people were saying like it's even though you delete the primary partition, the old partitions from the previous Windows installation are still there, like the recovery and the the essential safety partitions. Um, but you have to reset the SSD to like factory where it's a single unallocated space. There's like nothing in there, absolutely nothing. So I went back into the hard drive boot. I went to the disk manager, cleared it all out, and then was able to go back into the BIOS. And at this point, I'm like, I've learned so much about computers already. Like just remembering how to do this and or relearning how to do this because I had done this all before when I installed my SSD. Uh, so I was able to boot from USB, installed Windows onto the SSD. It seemed like smooth sailing. And now this is another problem, another emergent problem. I mean, while I was installing, like it asked for an internet connection, and the internet connection was fine. Um, but during the first boot, when I was like, I was like happy. I was like, okay, this is all done. I know for sure I don't have a Trojan, um, and I have a reinstalled fresh version of Windows. I'm like, okay, fresh start. But no, it's not a fresh start. Turns out, I mean, maybe it is. Maybe this is a sign of a fresh start because the internet wasn't working. Internet was working at first. I was able to get into the browser. Didn't really do much. And then after a while, I was not able to access the internet anymore. I don't know why. Um, so uh, now I'm like troubleshooting the internet, and so there's like a whole lot of things happening. Like the packets, I looked at the. Sometimes you can go into the network connection. You can monitor it, and you can see if the packets are being sent. So I was able. My Ethernet is like sending packets but not receiving. So now I'm like basic network troubleshooting, like this stuff I used to do when I was a kid. I was like 12 years old trying to diagnose the Wi-Fi. Because if you don't have internet access, your mind is going to do nothing but try to fix the internet. That's just how it is. And there's like a number of problems, like go into a command prompt and like type all these ipconfig stuff. My DNS suffix is blank. Um, there's another like network troubleshooter, and I ran that, and it's saying gateway DNS or DHCP gateway is not accessible, or DNS gateway is not accessible. And so I was looking up, googling like fixes to all these, and at this point I'm like far away from the Trojan problem. I already That's already fixed, and like why am I just running into more problems? And uh, So anyway, like a lot of these online recommendations telling me to go into command prompt and do all these IP configuration things. Um, I was like not able to change them because it's showing me access denied. And so when you get access denied, I look up that error, and it's like people are telling me to go into the registry and change your permissions, like improve your permissions so that you can get access to those things. And I spent like a while doing that. I changed a bunch of stuff in the registry from the online recommendations, and at this point, like some of the errors had changed, and I'm like, I don't know if I changed too much in the wrong order, and I don't know. You're supposed to like change something, restart, change something, restart. I'm like this. Maybe I messed up my computer. I don't know. I'm not an expert. And so right now, what I'm doing is another factory reset. It had just finished while I was making this video. From the SSD, it was a really fresh copy of Windows already. Another factory reset would be quite fast. Um, and so I'm praying that the second factory reset will magically solve the Ethernet issue, which is probably unlikely. It's probably unlikely that it'll magically solve. If it doesn't, I'll contribute to troubleshooting. And so that's like the end of the story, and not really the end of the story because I'm still facing problems. Who knows? Maybe even after I fix the internet, I'll run into more problems. But this has been a crazy story. I made this video so I could vent the story because I've just been feeling stressed, in my room trying to figure this out by myself. If any of you know computers and know why the Ethernet is not working, I mean, I've exhausted a ton of different things, just Google searching the problems and errors that emerge. Um, so yesterday I made a video about the systems in my life, and the last engine, the last system is like discovery. Like, how do I know when to discover new skills, basically? And now I learned that it is when problems arise, and that's what you see at the bottom of my notes. Like, what's my takeaway from all this? Yes, I'm like learning a bunch of things about how to fix a computer, but even deeper than that, the deeper wisdom to me is like, if you don't know what you don't know, just take care of your daily tasks. No need to go out of your way to find, things to do, things to experiment with, unless you're really bored. If you're bored, that's I guess that's another one. Um, Maybe I'll type it here at the bottom of the notes. When problem arise or boredom. So if you're bored, it's time to have fun and try something. If you're bored, it's time to have fun and try something new. But otherwise, to learn new skills, it's like if a problem happens. One of the only reasons that I've learned like how to fix some things in my car is because a problem messed up my car. My car was messed up. And I know in the future, as I'm going to be a father, when it comes to home maintenance, car maintenance issues, all the stuff I was talking about yesterday, health maintenance issues, it's all this, cost of living stuff. The cost of living is not just money. Cost of living is like taking care of basic survival problems. And that's how you get good at things. That's how you get a very generalized skill set. It's just by trying to address those problems the best you can. The dopamine comes from the stress. It's like this is a stressful situation. I was up till 4 a.m. last night. Um, and it's funny, like all this self discovery is happening at a very opportune time because my wife is 36 weeks pregnant. My son is about to be born, and I'm learning like all these things, and I'm learning the principles, like the deeper principles behind all these things, like what's written at the bottom of my notes, like learning how to solve problems and learning when to new skills to solve those problems. So it's like maybe this is a good time for this stuff to happen. Maybe this is God's blessing or something that God gave me a Trojan so I can learn all this stuff. I don't know. I'm just trying to rationalize. But the thing I learned about myself too, the other thing I learned about myself, I know that when my son comes, I'm gonna be staying up. I'm gonna be losing sleep. And I've been like practicing, quote unquote, like trying to stay awake while doing things. Even during the game jam, I had to like stay up late. And when I was like really fatigued, I just can't operate. Um, and like I'm dozing off. There was a point during the game jam where I was just sitting at my computer for 2 hours, telling myself I need to do more work. I need to do more work. But I guess the stress levels were not high enough to keep me up. Um, because I think I should have allowed myself to be more stressed about the problems. Because what I found last night when I had no internet and all this stuff was happening, I was very, very stressed, and the stress was keeping me up. I thought maybe at 4 a.m. when I had like at least I knew that I didn't have a Trojan anymore and I was just trying to fix the internet. I was like, okay, this will get fixed over time. Maybe the stress levels dropped. And so if I now that I know if I have a son and he's gonna keep me up at night, um, what is going to keep me up at night? Stress. And I know how to stay awake now. Caffeine does not work on me. Caffeine doesn't work. All like drinking water, like all this, like music, like all this stuff, turning on the lights. These are like things that can help you kind of stay awake. But to really wake up is to be in a very, very stressful situation to solve, and you have to solve problems. That's what I learned. So yeah, guys, that's a story. I know this was a long video, but I really wanted to vent all of that out. And if again, if you know computers, please help me out. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Again, love you all. Bye bye.